Hey guys, it's Nishquik here. So today we're going to be talking about PlayStation. This is our third podcast. So you can see in our background, we have our favorite PlayStation games. I am joined by my good friend Shark from the YouTube channel Shark Time. We're longtime friends from college. We share interests in movies, video games, music, all that. We're talking about video games today, primarily PlayStation. And Shark, if you want to introduce yourself and say something about your love for PlayStation, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Shark. Like Nishant explained, I'm a big PlayStation fan. My exposure to gaming consoles has been limited to all my PlayStation exclusives growing up. Lately, I've been trying to expand my exposure to gaming in general. But I have a very fond childhood memory of getting my first PlayStation 2, popping in that first game, and playing with my cousins all night long. So I haven't changed much since then, and I have many PlayStation memories to share, and I'm happy to be here talking about PlayStation with you.
Yeah, I'm excited. PlayStation is one heck of a memory maker, I will say that. All right, so I guess we can get started. So I'm gonna rearrange my first question a bit from what I actually wrote down. So what I wanted to ask is, how do you think PlayStation excels with their first-party titles?
I think PlayStation first-party titles like to rely a lot on their storytelling. I remember a lot of my exclusive experiences that I'd never found the game mechanics groundbreaking. And every time my friends would be like hyped up about an exclusive, telling me, hey, you gotta really try this game called Uncharted, man. Like, this game Uncharted is so good, it's crazy. And then I see them playing it. It's a normal, third-person shooter, and I was like, what's so special about this? And you realize how special it is once you start the story from the beginning and you see yourself get immersed in their fantasy worlds so easily. And I think that's what PlayStation shines them in their game development the most.
Yeah, especially with Uncharted. It's a very, I wouldn't call it incredibly personal, but it really continues with the games. You see Nathan Drake's character development throughout the games, and with Uncharted 4, it's all about Nate. Like, it's literally like, why is Nate a thief? Why does he do what he does? Does he still want to do this? Does he want to like just have a normal life? It like answers all these big questions about Nathan Drake, the character himself. And that's, I have to agree, PlayStation really excels with its storytelling in all the games I played so far. And I think this is going to be a reoccurring theme in this podcast episode, that PlayStation really hits it home with their stories.
They like to develop a familiar world for their gamers. When you enter a PlayStation exclusive, you feel like you're becoming a part of something. You get attached to the world, attached to the characters, even if it's not like something as charming as Uncharted or Little Big Planet. You get attached to some characters, like in God of War, for example.
Oh yeah,
like the latest one. You get attached to the relationship between Kratos and his son Atreus.
God of War is a very personal story.
Yeah,
because the game sets it up really well. You're like, Atreus's mother just died, Kratos' wife, and it's a really heartfelt story, going to the highest peak in all the 9 realms to scatter her ashes. But what will you encounter throughout the journey and on the way there? It's a great story.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I want to talk about real quick is how PlayStation and Sony excel over other studios. I just want to add that my first ever console actually was a PlayStation 2, but I wasn't actually immersed like entirely into video games until I got a Nintendo DS. And then I got the Wii and I played some of the GameCube library and all that stuff. And the thing about Nintendo, which I love, is they were pioneers in their art. They were pioneers in adventure games. They're pioneers in platforming games. They created the Metroidvania genre. They did so many things, and they brought their beloved franchises into the world of 3D and did it so seamlessly and so well. And what I love about them is they keep innovating and keep innovating. And PlayStation does that too, but I see a lot of unique things that I've not seen in other studios with Nintendo. But I think my thing with PlayStation is that their storytelling and the real heartfelt emotion you go through when playing a game is unparalleled. What do you think about that?
I agree with you on the that Nintendo pioneered a lot of like what the gaming world is today.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we would have personal conversations about Zelda.
Yeah.
Long personal conversations about how Ocarina of Time reinvented, some of the game mechanics that we still use today.
Yeah.
But I think PlayStation shines more light on some of their skills in other aspects of their game development, and I think it's also with their like unique world development and not necessarily game mechanics like Nintendo was known for, but it's the world you dive into. You dive into a different world that you explore, while simultaneously living through that great storytelling aspect of those games.
Yeah, you really see that with the game I'm playing now, Ghost of Tsushima. Like, they really masterfully recreated Tsushima Island, and it looks so real and so authentic, and you're like, wow, I'm like actually here. And there's a reason that the directors of the game were like made ambassadors of that island or something like that, because the people of that island were like, wow, they've brought our history to life.
Definitely. And you could, like, the way you also interact with the environment makes PlayStation exclusives more unique for me. I definitely don't want to be bashful of other consoles, and speaking of this, I enjoy all consoles and exclusives, but my knowledge, like I said, is mainly limited to PlayStation. I've grown up on their games. Lately, I've been trying to expand my experience, but for example, the latest God of War again, the developers kept on hitting on the pin that they spent most of their time developing these beautiful, detailed environments, and Uncharted 4 as well, when they spent, I believe, almost a whole year developing the Madagascar level section. And what I really like about these games is that they don't really tell you, hey, you can actually go there and interact with those pack of kangaroos, or you can't really go there and interact with that lemur in that market. Like, these are things you're gonna have to go explore on your own with that gamer's gene of like, I just want to venture off the rails and go into that world and explore it. And I think one of your favorite games, Persona 5, hits that well too. The thing
about Persona 5, I'll say this: it's very linear, but it takes you on a journey, and the characters you meet along the way, you'll remember them forever. So, like, I don't think Persona 5 has immersion in the sense that you can go to different places in Tokyo and interact with the shopkeepers, and like go to a bar in the middle of the night, and you can go to the batting cages, and then you can go to the doctor's office. You can go to all these places, but it's still a little limited. I think where Persona 5 excels the most is with its characters and its gameplay, but I'll get into that a little later.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, whenever you take a look at a PlayStation exclusive and you compare it to an Xbox game or a Nintendo game, nothing really like sets it apart mechanically or sets it apart performance wise. The reason why PlayStation games like are special is because of the way they're packaged. They just present their characters and their story and their art style of the game in a way where it's like very enjoyable. It's like that long debate between Android or iPhone. Why do iPhone people love their phones even though it may not have the same features? It's because the way the iPhone is packaged. It's enjoyable and simple in a way where you can just get into it and do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I agree with you when you said earlier that you respect all consoles, and I do as well. Like there's like back in the day I'll be like, oh, Xbox sucks, Xbox has no exclusives or whatever, and now I'm kind of like taking back that statement because Xbox is doing pretty good with Game Pass, and their Series X is really powerful, so they're doing well. So like what you said with Androids versus iPhones, it's like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, they're all throwing their hats in the ring, but they're all doing a phenomenal job with their exclusives and the quality they bring to the table.
I have the same thoughts about or had the same thoughts about Xbox, and I just came to realize that they have probably one of the most big libraries that incorporates all the past games from past generations. And seeing one of my friends, he has access to a lot of cool games that I wish I had access to. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, Xbox is starting to grow on me a little bit. I enjoy seeing them, respect their fan base and their gamer base. Also, Nintendo. I gotta tell you something. Growing up, I hated Nintendo more than any other console. Like Xbox seemed lame to me, and I wasn't really much of a PC gamer, but Nintendo was one of those consoles. I was like, this console sucks. This console has
kids.
It's for kids. Its art style, it's lame. Why do grown men and women want to go and buy some of those games? And I was just like over it. But lately, I'm reviewing some of the things released on the Nintendo consoles, and I'm ashamed to have said those things. That they really push the boundary with the term of fun. They really want their gamers to have fun. That's what it's all about. Having those game mechanics that bring out joy from either playing alone or playing with friends.
Yeah, I actually watched someone on YouTube do a retrospective of Super Mario World yesterday, Super Mario World for the SNES, and there was a quote from the director of the game, Takashi Tezuka, and he said, with this game, I wanted to make a game that's not only good for a couple of years, but that will be treasured for a lifetime. And people still play Super Mario World today. And like our one of our good friends from school, I remember back in our apartment, he played Super Mario World and he beat it in like a couple of hours, and I was like, wow. It's
wow.
It's a gem of a game. And yeah, Nintendo really knows how to make their players have a good time. All right, I'm gonna move on a little bit. So this is gonna be a long one. So this is primarily for you. So how
Okay.
did you get into PlayStation and gaming in general?
Wow. That's
Yeah. This is a long one.
it's not really a long one. It's more of a weird one. I don't know if people will relate to my answer.
Interesting.
But first time I was ever introduced to a PlayStation, I believe I was young enough that my sister, who's 4 years younger than me, was like 1 at the time. So I was like around 5 to 6 years old,
Yeah.
right? At the time, not much internet, not much into anything, popular, mainstream. And my cousins were older than me. So they were up to date on that, what's trending kind of deal. And they bought a PlayStation 1 and they had it. And I used to go over to their home and I would not even say like, hi, or how's everybody doing? I would just run straight to the console. I'd be like, let's pop a game in, let's play something. I just wanted to see what is this? Let's play something. And I would just watch at the time. My cousins played this game called Pepsi Man.
Yes.
And I believe I talked to you about it before. And it's like, for those who don't know what Pepsi Man is, it's like a temple run kind of game, but you play as a guy representing all of Pepsi of the world. And he gets like super speed and super leaping abilities from drinking Pepsi. And he just like run, avoid obstacles, and drink Pepsi along the way, pick them up. And that's just how you beat the game. You reach the end of the level. And man, I had so many great memories like starting off that game. And sooner or later, I was like, Mom, I love this. I gotta have one. And she gifted me my first PlayStation 2. And my mom is like the most anti-gamer woman ever. Okay, I've had days where I was yelled at for staying up too late. I had days where I was banned from gaming. But if Mom is watching this video, she should know better because she was the one that taught me how to game.
Oh, yes, I know this one. Yes.
When I got my PlayStation 2 and I did not know what the heck I was doing playing Crash Bandicoot or playing Die Hard 2, there was a game for Die Hard. It was great. And my mom was the one to grab the controller from me and teach me, okay, this is how you jump, this is how you run. And she would beat levels for me.
Awesome.
So it's all on her. She made me who I am today in
That's
terms
great.
of a game. Yeah.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah, so from there on out, the snowball just kept rolling, collecting more, and it got bigger into this gamer conglomerate that I am today, wanting to try out many different things.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, everyone has very humble beginnings when it comes to gaming, but I really like how your mom really taught you how to game. That's so awesome.
It's so funny. She's like, whenever I would have friends over and we would be stuck in this mission, and like we don't know how to pass this part, I swear we would pick up the hotline, would be like, Mom, like, can you come in here? Like, me and my friends are stuck at this level. And she would just come in like, and like, done. I was like, where is that? Where are those skills? Whenever I try to get her to game with me lately, and I'm like, Mom, where are your skills? Remember when you used to beat those levels for us?
She has inherent. You know what's cool though is games back then were probably a lot harder. So the fact that she could have beaten those levels like that is pretty awesome. Yeah.
It's that motherly instinct, She just wants to protect her baby from the dangers of the Crash Bandicoot enemies,
from Dr. Neocortex.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the way I got into gaming and PlayStation was kind of similar. So we used to like go to our family friends' houses often when I used to live in Canada, and one of them had a PlayStation 2, and they were playing the most obscure game ever. It was a Bugs Bunny game, and I can't find the name of that Bugs Bunny game, but they would play that, and I was like, this is out of this world. I've never seen anything like it. And then they would play Bugs Bunny and Crash Bandicoot, and I would suck so much at Crash Bandicoot. But I was like, I need to get this PlayStation. And I was, how old was I? I was 5 or 6. I think I was 6 then. And I would keep asking my parents, when am I gonna get a PlayStation? When am I gonna get a PlayStation?
I want to play that Bugs Bunny game badly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I finally got one in Christmas of 2005, I think. But I didn't get the Bugs Bunny game or Crash Bandicoot. I got something even better. I got the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 1 game. Spider-Man 1. And wow. I was terrible at the game, but just the fact that I could swing through New York City like so seamlessly and so easily, and I could beat up these thugs in like the coolest way possible with all these amazing combos. I was like, this is an amazing game.
The Spider-Man fanboy that you are probably enjoyed that there's a really good Spider-Man game that's out like that to begin with.
Yeah, after seeing those Tobey Maguire movies and then playing that game, I was that's what locked me in as a Spider-Man fan.
I wanted to mention that Spider-Man 2 was where the game was truly defined. And it's not because of its like groundbreaking web swinging mechanics, but it's the addition of having the pizza delivery guy, Mr. Aziz, telling you to go deliver in-game pizzas to the skyscrapers at the very top without flipping it over. And it was the most difficult thing ever.
What I found interesting is I got that in 2005, and then 5 years later in 2010, my cousin's family came to visit us, and then like we exhausted the Wii, so like we played too much Wii. So then I was like, hey, let's play Spider-Man on the PlayStation. So we played that, and that's when I realized how like really good this game is, because it implemented a lock-on targeting system, which was invented with Ocarina of Time. And then its combat was so good because you accumulate all these combos. You just find these little spider tokens, you get these combos, and the combos look so cool. Like there was one thing, you could make like a web dome over you and just hold that in, and then it just explodes, and then the web just goes everywhere and attacks everyone. That's one thing I remember. But those combos were what sold the game, and the boss fights were amazing. There was a lot of boss fights that weren't in the movie. Like Shocker was in the game, Vulture was in the game, Scorpion was in the game. These super soldiers, like these.
Sandman was in the game too, I believe.
I think so. I can't remember.
He had that level structure where you had to like burst those pipes or burst those fire extinguishers. I think so. Yeah, you're right. I remember that. But I also remember these super soldiers. They're like these robots, and you have to do a stealth mission around them, because if they see you, they like attack you twice and then you're dead. Whoa.
Yeah, it was frightening. Like,
dude, I didn't really think about Spider-Man 1 that much. I was always a bigger fan of the second one, but now that you got me remembering things, I feel like Spider-Man 1 is probably the most like comic booky like Spider-Man game out there that does it well.
It's comic booky, but you also feel the movie influence as well, because Tobey Maguire is voicing him. You got all these events from the movies, but with the inclusion of all these villains, that's what made it so comic booky. Like that Shocker fight was so cool because you're doing it in a subway. And you have to go through like different subway tracks, because like he'll be coming at you in this subway track, and then your spider sense tingles, so you have to go to this one.
But also the element of that it's like a retro video game where you get to pick up tokens for combos, but the other element that the combos are so fantastical and like outlandish, where you make a spider dome around you. Like those, I love that they just combine that retro element and that comic book element together.
Yeah,
it makes for a very enjoyable experience.
I think that's one thing the Insomniac Spider-Man games are missing. Though I will say those games are absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best I've played on PlayStation 4.
Is it missing the retro aspect, or
it's missing the retro aspect?
The retro,
because
okay.
like it of course it's gotta feel modern because these games came out in 2018 and 2020, so like it's gotta feel modern. But I just feel like if they did a Peter Parker at a younger age, it would have felt a little more retro, feel a little more ground. Does that make sense? I don't know.
It does, but I would have to make a compromise with your suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember in Spider-Man 2, they had a retro version of their modernized web-swinging game where you could get to go to the arcade shop and play the older version of the game.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
Yeah. So you get to like experience the best of both worlds, because they knew they were like sacrificing that retro element when they came out with the second game. And I feel like if Insomniac does that and they make like a 3D platformer like the first game, incorporated within their real world next gen game, I feel like that could be like a cool compromise for both kind of gamers.
Yeah. A game called Dragon Quest XI, it does something similar, because you're doing all these RPG things in a 3D open world, but there's an option to make the game 2D like the old Dragon Quest games, and it turns into like a 2D top-down grid-based Dragon Quest. So I don't know, this is a weird wish for Insomniac to do, but it would be cool if they do something like that.
I don't know if it's a weird wish. I feel like when we start having wishful thinking like that, we start to say, oh, maybe we're asking too much of game developers. Maybe we're really like going overboard with our thinking here. But if you recall some of the older games, and I'm talking pre-internet games, pre-multiplayer games, when gamers made a game, that was it. They're putting all of their heart and soul and team effort into releasing that final disc, first and final disc, for all consumers. And then you would have everything packed in there. No DLC, no extended spin-offs.
No microtransactions.
That was it. Like, I'll give you a very good example. Devil May Cry 3 was one of my favorite PlayStation 2 games. And it's not just because for the amazing storytelling or the amazing gameplay or how Dante was like my favorite badass character at the time. But when you reach the end of the game and you beat it, and your twin brother Virgil, you and him, spoilers, by the way, skip like 10 seconds ahead if you want to replay the game. But you and Virgil face off and he kills you, quote unquote. You get to finish the game there, and you can restart the game again. You're like, what's happening? Like, why am I at the main menu? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. And then the main menu screen, where it has Dante pointing the gun like this, the screen gets riddled with bullet holes and it cracks, and Virgil appears on the left side. And then you can get to select Virgil now and press new game. That was one of the most mind-blowing things ever. Like, you beat the game, but you get to replay it again as Virgil. That's
really cool.
Today, if that was the case, if the Devil May Cry 3 was made today, they would have released the Virgil expansion spin-off game, not even DLC. They would have made it like Spider-Man Miles Morales, like an extension to the game.
Yeah.
where you buy it later down the line. And like I'm not like hating on Miles Morales. I'm gonna buy it later this year. But games back then, when they only had one shot, they really put everything and anything they could think about to make the game special. And I wish we could move back towards that.
It's really coincidental that you're talking about this, because I watched a podcast with two of my favorite YouTubers who talked about this, and they were talking about Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, how Final Fantasy VII Remake happened, April 2020, and now they're releasing the Intergrade expansion in June 2021. So it's like not even the whole game. Plus, Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't even the whole game because they're making it 3 parts.
I read about that. That pissed me off so much.
Though my counter argument is that they want to expand the story and make it a lot bigger. So, I mean, I kind of get that, but at the same time, if you want to play Final Fantasy VII, you would want to play it all the way through. And like those same people, those same YouTubers were like, if they remake Ocarina of Time in that same way, it would be fearful because they would probably make one game for a child Link and one game for adult Link. And yeah, it's just squeezing money out of your players.
Messed up.
Yeah.
Like, would you have enjoyed Persona 5 if it was broken up into 3 parts?
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
the thing about Persona 5, it also makes that same mistake, because Persona 5 came out in 2017, April 2017. And then in March 2020, they released Persona 5 Royal, which is the definitive version of the game, for $60. And it's literally the same game, but with new characters and quality of life improvements. And they're like, why didn't they just put this all in the original game?
Like a free expansion to it.
Yeah, they could have done that too.
Yeah,
it's just the thing that Atlas does.
I respect Sucker Punch for making Ghost of Tsushima the way they made it.
Yeah.
Because I gotta tell you something, for them to make that long of a story with that creative reimagined gameplay and put all that effort into single player, but still give a handout multiplayer experience for free.
Yeah.
For free. For every single person that owns the game is something that I respect tremendously. Yeah, like that's what game developers should be following, you know?
On top of that, they gave an upgrade for PS5 owners to play it at
for
1800p and 60 FPS for free, yeah.
All you had to do was buy the game once, and everything that comes afterwards is for free. Another great example that people probably don't talk about very much because it's a super, super popular game, probably the most popular game, GTA 5.
I knew you were going to say that, yes.
Like, the Rockstar is non-stop updating the game. Non-stop. Yeah. Free. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of their online, but I could only imagine if you are, you'd be one of the happiest gamers out there, getting so much free content every month.
Moving on, I wanted to ask, so both of us have a PS5, so how are you?
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, we're lucky guys. So
I am so lucky. Like I really feel bad that most of us don't get to have a PS5 for the ones that want to buy one. And I just feel tremendously lucky. Just to put that out there.
Yeah, I feel very lucky too. And like, to those who haven't got one, it will happen. Just
fingers crossed.
Just keep trying. Just keep getting at it. And, like it'll happen. But so my next question is, how are you enjoying the console? Have you had any issues, or has it been a smooth ride? How's it been for you?
I have some pros and cons when it comes to the PlayStation 5, and it's not something that I'm particularly happy about that I get to say pros and cons. Whenever I get a new console, I want to be able to say like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm so happy, I'm playing it nonstop. But the fact of the matter is, I was lucky enough to get it very early. But the other side of the story is that getting it early doesn't mean you get to have a lot of fun with it, because there aren't that many games on the console.
Yeah.
When you go to the PlayStation store and you want to go buy games, they divided the store to two categories: PlayStation 4 and games from even before that, and they have the PlayStation 5 page. I went on the PlayStation 5. I want to play next gen games. Almost every single game is coming out. You're either gonna pre-order it or you're gonna have to wait until a price is set for it.
Yeah.
And it's literally every single PlayStation 5 game. And I was like, okay, I guess I have a PlayStation 5, but I'm not really experiencing PlayStation 5. The only PlayStation 5 moment I had was when I played the demo. When I played Astro's Playroom, I feel like that was like pure PlayStation awesomeness. I got to play and experience the PlayStation 5 for what it was made for. I had an amazing time experiencing the controller. That was like the highlight for me. But then after I finished that, it was just like, okay, I guess I'm playing PlayStation 4 games again.
Yeah.
You know, it's as if I'm playing on my previous console, but it's on a better performance machine. That's my only gripe.
And one other thing I am not a fan of is Sony kind of lied to us by saying we're going all in with this next gen thing, and we're kind of leaving the PS4 behind. But now they're releasing so many of their mainline PlayStation games on the PS4 as well. Like Horizon Forbidden West is coming to PS4. Miles Morales came on PS4. All these other games are coming to PS4 as well, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion. They all came on PS4 as well. So, I mean, you get PS5 versions, but it's kind of sad that they're not going 100% full on PS5. I mean, we did get Returnal, which I unfortunately didn't play yet, and we're getting Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which are exclusive PS5 games, but you kind of wish there was more exclusive PS5 games.
I understand, but you gotta also think about the transition phase. You can't just like rip the band-aid straight off and like completely ignore games that were already in development for the 4. Yeah. Some of the games that you're getting on the 5 and also getting on the 4 is because the games were originally in development for the PlayStation 4, but they made versions of it for the 5.
Yeah.
The Horizon Forbidden West, if it's coming out this year, it means that it has been in development for at least 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Meaning that the development was existing when the PlayStation 5 was in its very early stages of development.
It so probably started right after the first one.
Yeah, they gotta have a backup plan to say like, oh, if the PlayStation 5 gets delayed in release, we gotta release our game on some other platform.
Yeah,
so it makes sense. You just gotta give it a year, I feel, until like more games come through. If you remember when the PlayStation 3 games were announced, like the last generation PlayStation 3 games, you had The Last of Us and you had Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Both of them were released on the 3, the last big games on the 3. Yeah. And if you recall, when the 4 came out, they had a remastered version of The Last of Us, and they re-released GTA 5 again.
You know, I see what I love about the PS4 is it remastered so many classic games. So like everyone like probably hated that the PS4 wasn't backwards compatible, but like it had so many remasters to compensate for that, like Kingdom Hearts, Last of Us, Uncharted, Shadow of the Colossus, some of the original God of War games. All of these were remastered. It's great.
God of War 3 remastered was amazing. Amazing. I play this on like full blast. The music is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
PS4 was an amazing hit. I'm really liking those games because, to those who don't know, I never had a PS4 during the PS4's life. So I'm playing all these PS4 games, which I never got to play on my PS5, and they're some of the best games I've played.
Yes, let me say one thing about that I wanted to mention previously.
Mm-hmm.
Back to when you said what are the pros or how you're liking your PS5 so far. The cons is, like I mentioned before, not many games, but the pros is that they included all of those PlayStation games from past consoles in the PlayStation Plus package.
Yes.
Where you get to access all of these free games. I think that was one of the best things they did for the 5. It's really a selling point for any person that wants to buy a PlayStation 5.
And I think all of those games, all of them are quality titles, each and every
quality titles. Enter the Gungeon. We've been talking about this.
That wasn't on the PS Plus collection, but it was a play at home game.
Play at home game. My bad. But Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Yes. Wow, I played that yesterday.
Oh, really? Nice.
With
start that.
With a couple of friends, and wow, we just all like sat back. One of us took the controller. Amazing game. Yeah. Amazing game.
Yeah. Resident Evil 7, God of War, Uncharted 4, Persona 5, Bloodborne, all of these games.
The Last of Us Remastered.
Yeah, Last of Us Remastered, Ratchet and Clank, all of these came available with your PS5 on day one if you had PS Plus with no additional cost, and that was amazing, especially for me. I was like, one of my favorite things that I used to play on the PlayStation 3 was Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies. Yeah, and I am that came with the collection too. Yeah,
the whole thing, the Zombie Chronicles thing with Black Ops 3. They put that in for free. That was on my to buy list, and I was so happy that they included it because now I don't have to buy it. I just get the game, all my favorite zombie moments. Yeah, for free.
Yeah,
you know, awesome. Like when you buy a new console, like back when you used to go into the store, like at a Walmart or Best Buy, GameStop, they usually bundle it with a game. You know, it's usually not the best game. Like back at home, they would bundle. Since FIFA was popular in Egypt, they would bundle like FIFA with the PlayStation 3 or Killzone or whatever the game was hot at the time. But I feel like when people are buying their consoles these days and they're saying, oh, there isn't a bundle that's coming with my 5, I'm only paying a premium just for the console. Everybody needs to know that, hey, you're buying a console that comes with almost 20 free games that are quality. If you're getting those games in hard disk, you would know that you're getting your money's worth when you're buying these consoles. It's a good investment. I'm very hopeful in the next coming year for what's going to be announced.
Yeah, like again with the PS Plus collection, if you like when I got the PS5, that was in November, and I got my PlayStation Plus subscription for like $40, and $40 for 20 plus games with no additional cost. Amazing deal. Amazing.
And like it's not like a big fee to keep renewing it, even though I'm always an advocate for making PlayStation online for free, but bundling the online with the Plus subscription does make sense.
Yeah. So now I kind of want to transition to some of the questions you had, if you had any for me. So hit me with
I have one. One that's really I've been wanting to ask. I know you're a huge Spider-Man fan. I'm a big Spider-Man fan, but I don't think I come close to being as big of one as you.
Oh, really?
Over the course of my years of gaming, I took a log about, wrote down all the games that I own in a list to know what I have, and I realized that the longest series of games that I have are all Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I own some from the Edge of Time to Shattered Dimensions to the latest Spider-Man, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. And I just want to know if you own a bundle of Spider-Man games, and if you don't, what is your biggest collection of a single franchise of games?
Well, this might be disappointing, but I think the only Spider-Man games I own are the Spider-Man 1 game, and then Marvel Spider-Man and Miles Morales, because I did play Shattered Dimensions on my cousin's laptop and I enjoyed it, but I don't know what didn't draw me to those games, because that's when I was in my full-on Nintendo mode and I would just like go all over the place with Nintendo. But I can't remember which one, but there was one Spider-Man game which I heard this YouTuber talking about, which did the web swinging almost identical to how Spider-Man PS4 does. And I want to try to go back and play that game, because I want to see how that game revolutionized the web swinging. And I want to...
That's Spider-Man 2 you're talking about, right?
Okay, it's either Spider-Man 2 or it's like... I forgot which one. I have to go back to that video and see which one it is. It might have been Spider-Man 2, because Spider-Man 2 really upped the web swinging mechanic a lot.
They did an interview with the guy that invented the mechanics, and they brought him the new Spider-Man game because he hasn't even tried it. And they sat down with him, and ironically enough, he was wearing a Superman t-shirt. There's a video, and and they sat down with him and they're like, hey dude, like try the Spider-Man game. And he played it and he was like, you guys really like improved on my mechanics. And he was very happy to see that they were using some of the stuff from the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And just like a little tidbit on that, the guy retired from big game development and he's doing solo projects. And he makes these little games for his children. He has 2 kids.
Oh, nice.
And he makes it for them and they play it, and that's how he interacts with them. It was very wholesome to see that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
But back to your question about which game franchise I have the most games for, it's hands down Legend of Zelda. It's my favorite video game franchise of all time, as some of you might know. And let's see how many games I have. I have Zelda 1 on my Wii. I have A Link to the Past on Switch and emulator and on the Wii. I have Link's Awakening on the 3DS and the Switch. I have Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask on the Wii. I have I don't have the Oracle games. I have Wind Waker on the GameCube. I have the GameCube disc. I have Twilight Princess on the Wii. I have Skyward Sword on the Wii. I have Breath of the Wild on the Wii U and Switch.
Oh my god, you're going on and on.
Yeah, I have...
How many games are those? 9?
10.
10?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ocarina of Time 3D on the 3DS. And I think that's it. Oh no, I have Spirit Tracks on the DS. And no, I don't... Do I have Spirit Tracks? No, I borrowed Spirit Tracks. I have Phantom Hourglass on the DS. So that's 11. And it's been a wild ride, because each game is so different, each game is so unique, and I loved most of them. Like 98% of those games I love. But I'm also very critical about Zelda, because since it's my favorite video game franchise, I'm very critical about it. Some games that most people love with Zelda, I'm not a really big fan of. And I'm gonna say this right now, and everyone's gonna hate me for it. I like Wind Waker, but it's not as good as everyone makes it out to be. It's
okay. Hold on, before you keep on going, throwing out titles that for a casual gamer like me don't understand. Can you go through each of one of those titles and like explain what the game is about in like a sentence, like even with a joke or something, like a simple word?
Okay. Zelda 1, just simple. Save the princess, defeat Ganon. A Link to the Past, you travel between the light world and the dark world, and again, save the princess and defeat Ganon. Link's Awakening, it's unfortunately it's all a dream, but it's one heck of a dream. Ocarina of Time, best coming of age story ever. You travel 7 years into the past and future from young Link to adult Link interchangeably. Majora's Mask, the darkest game in the series. It's all about the 5 stages of grief. What's the next one? Well, next one I have Wind Waker, the most artistic game in the series. Everyone thought it was for kids. It's not really for kids because what happens in the end of the game is pretty dark. Twilight Princess, the edgiest game in the series, where you turn into a wolf. Like it's so edgy, but it's so awesome.
A wolf?
Yeah, Wolf Link exists in the game.
What?
And Twilight Princess is probably one of my favorite moments in a Zelda game ever. Skyward Sword, the most controversial game in the series. Though it's very unique because of its motion controls, but best music and best story in the series. Breath of the Wild, one of generation defining game. One of the best games of the decade, hands down. Many people would disagree. Some people even call it a bad game, but just look at all those Game of the Year awards it's gotten. Look at all those haters, 10 out of 10s it's gotten.
They're just haters.
Yeah. I saw one person say that Breath of the Wild is the worst game Nintendo's ever made. I was like,
you just ignore them at that point.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you though, from your definitions of the games, I think I am most intrigued by Zelda 2 and Ocarina of Time. I'm a huge sucker.
You mean A Link to the Past, right? The light world and the dark world one?
Yes, that sounds amazing. I want to know what this is. This just sounds so intriguing. You just made me want to play that series even more.
You know, I'm gonna send you a video right now about.
Sure thing.
It's a video I watched yesterday about A Link to the Past, and it was a great video. But
dude, that was very cool. You did that very eloquently, describing all those games quickly. You know your stuff.
I know too much about Zelda.
I got it. Popped up on my phone up here.
Yes, yeah. Check that out later. But yeah, I think Zelda's great. But I don't want to talk too much about Zelda because it's more about PlayStation. But at the same time, that's my answer to your question. The franchise I have the most games of is Zelda.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 Batman games, and nice. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 Spider-Man games.
Nice.
For the Spider-Man games, I own one of my favorites is Edge of Time.
Okay.
Edge of Time, it's not like Shattered Dimensions where you get to experience a different Spider-Man of different universes. It's like it's like the latest animated movie for Spider-Man. Why am I blanking on the name?
Into the Spider-Verse.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse. I feel so dumb not remembering that. But it had that first like feeling of like, oh, you get to like be different Spider-Man. That's cool.
Yeah.
And Edge of Time didn't do that, but Edge of Time introduced something pretty cool. Also, spoiler alert for those who want to play it. I don't know if anybody wants to play that game, but skip like 10 seconds ahead. Harry is the main villain in Edge of Time.
Just like Spider-Man 3.
Just like Spider-Man 3, but in a more big villain way. Like Spider-Man 3, he was, a frenemy.
Yeah.
He was still kind of your friend, but this one, he's like the big bad. And I enjoyed that. You also get to switch between Peter and what's his name from Spider-Man 2099?
Miguel O'Hara.
Miguel O'Hara. I love that character. They introduced him in a good light. But yeah, other than the Spider-Man games, I have a very interesting Batman collection. I have this PlayStation 2 game, and it's called Batman Rise of Sin Tzu.
Never heard of that.
Sin Tzu is one of the most like unknown Batman villains, but he is like this big like Genghis Khan kind of like empire building villain. And
wait, before you continue, you know what I thought?
What?
The title was? I thought it was Batman Rise of Sin 2, the sequel.
Sin 2.
That's what I thought it was before you said Sin 2 is the villain. I was like, what? Okay.
It's spelled T-Z-U. I don't know how you pronounce
okay.
that. I think it's Jew or something like that.
Okay, that's cool.
But what really was cool about this game is that you could play it co-op throughout the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you get to play, of course, Batman, but you either pick Robin, Batgirl, or Nightwing.
Nice.
That was the first time I saw Nightwing ever, and I was like, who is that? I want to play with him every single playthrough.
It's Gotham Knights before Gotham Knights.
Dude, it's so fun. Every single Bat character has their own combat list, their own gadgets, and as you it's a beat 'em up game.
Yeah.
So as you go and you beat up the villains and whatnot, you get points at the end of the level that you can add towards your upgrades and unlocks.
Oh, nice. That's so
and
cool.
The game gets difficult. Like once you reach the bigger villains, it gets pretty tough, but it's fun. Yeah, and I own all the Lego stuff too for that. You want to know what's an interesting collection I have that I was like shook that I got that many games for? Need for Speed.
Yeah.
I have so many Need for Speed games.
You told me once that's one of the first games you ever played on your computer or something, right?
It was my first like exposure to real like long prolonged gaming, and it was Underground.
And it taught you English as well, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I adapted English from it. Also Vice City. I learned a lot from that too. But yeah, that's these are some collections. Now I wanna talk about something similar to Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
And speaking from my title over here, I want us to talk a little bit about our favorite PlayStation games. I know you got Bloodborne in the back, but for me, I was always like a big fan of the Uncharted games. Mm-hmm. I was a big fan of the God of War series. There are many PlayStation exclusives out there that I thought I would put, top of my list. But thinking about what would be my favorite PlayStation game exclusive, I thought long and hard, and I had the most fun playing Metal Gear out of all of the exclusives. Even though it doesn't have that much replayability, I remember that one summer I bought the whole series. I was clueless about the series, but I got myself a pen and a paper, and I was just ready to play this game, take notes on all the complicated stories that was going to be told. And Metal Gear Solid 1 was really my favorite out of the whole series.
Nice.
Yeah, it was released on the PlayStation 1. It was the first espionage game of its kind, and they did so many things well in that game, from storytelling to gameplay, and it blew my mind that it's a PlayStation 1 game. And for you, what was your like favorite things about Bloodborne being your PlayStation exclusive?
Well, I'm gonna talk about Bloodborne and Persona, but I'll start with Bloodborne since it's my background. So I'll give it a little background. So my friend from Canada, one of my long-time friends from when I was a kid. He was like, "Hey, dude, you have Bloodborne on the PS5 on the collection, right? You should play it." And I was like, "No, dude, I'm not playing a Souls game. That's too tough. Like, I don't like games that just constantly kick your ass and like it's not even fun." And he was like, "No, dude, it's fun. Just trust me. Like, you'll get better at it and you'll play it and you'll enjoy it." So I was like, I don't know, I'll see. And before I even touched the game, I watched a lot of videos on it before I even went close to the game. I needed to know what I was getting into. I learned that the game is not only people just coming at you with axes and pitchforks and trying to stab you. It's you with your weapon of choice, with your hunter axe or saw cleaver, with your blunderbuss or pistol, with your two weapons, and you have to really know how to utilize it well. When someone's coming at you, you have to shoot them in the right time to perform a visceral attack. When enemies are coming at you, you have to know exactly how to dodge to get them from behind. And there's so many different enemy types. The enemy variety is amazing. And like using a transformed weapon versus a one-handed weapon versus a two-handed weapon versus and then also the RPG elements of it. I love the RPG elements because in the beginning of the game you can't level up at all. You just get thrown in the game, you just get beat up and tossed up left, right until you make it to the first boss. And then when you make it to the first boss, you can finally level up. And you don't even have to kill the first boss to level up.
That's very interesting design for the game.
Yeah,
Keep it.
Exactly. And like once you get to that first boss, you're like, okay, now I know how these blood echoes work, how I need to spend them and all that. And allocating your blood echoes to the correct stats and seeing that actually result in you being a better hunter in the game is very rewarding. And I love the boss fights. I love the music. Bloodborne has had some of my favorite boss fights in a game. I'll never forget beating the cleric beast for the first time. I'll never forget the hunter versus fight with Father Gascoigne. I'll never forget being very proud of myself for beating the blood-starved beast in less than 30 seconds. Don't ask me how I did that. I did. And then I'll never forget dying to the Witches of Hemwick many times because I suddenly started to suck at the game. But the thing about Bloodborne is you will die, you will get torn up and defeated many times, but it's the amount of times you pick yourself back up and realize what you did wrong and persevere that makes it such a good game. And then real quick about Persona 5 is I think it has the best style out of any game I've seen ever. I was watching a lot of videos yesterday on graphic design in video games, and I think Persona 5 excels because it exudes the theme of rebellion and breaking free of the chains that society has placed on you, with its font, with its style, with its colors, with its character design. I think it's the most stylish and artistic game I've played. But not only that, I think it has the best music out of any game I've played. The combat is intriguing. It's like Pokemon, but it's not because the personas work a little differently. The fusion system is interesting. The characters are great. Some
of the songs you shared with me, I still listen to it on my Spotify playlists.
Yeah, Persona is just amazing. But I'm rambling on too much about these games. I could go on about them for hours, and I'll eventually make videos on both of them separately. But I just had a great time with them.
That was great, man.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me about Persona a lot, and watching your video too. I grew some appreciation for the game. It was one of those games where I easily dismissed because it's like a linear, interaction game. It's not your usual AAA third-person action game.
Yeah.
But seeing you talk about it made me appreciate it a lot more.
I will say it's not perfect though. There are times when the game slows down a lot and there's a whole bunch of dialogue at once, and you're just like, stop talking, high schoolers. I get it. Oh god, it does that to you sometimes. It gets annoying. But yeah, that's that. So now I kind of want to talk about two games that that we talked about quite a bit today, but I want to go into depth a little more on them. So God of War and Ghost of Tsushima, what made them such important games for you?
God of War, for me, was very important because I am a huge fan of the original trilogy. I found some attachment to Kratos growing up as a child. He is always the outcast. He is always, the black sheep of Olympus. And growing up in Egypt as a person who is not very, I had a lot of trouble growing up speaking in general. And I was not very good in expressing myself either through Arabic or through English. And I was, picked on a little bit from friends and even some teachers. And playing as Kratos in the God of War games let me like vent out, all of that, inner frustration out. And this is like my childhood friend. Kratos is my childhood friend who helped me go through these tough times. And when they announced they are revamping the series, getting a new voice actor for Kratos, which was, by the way, one of my biggest fears, and that they were redesigning the game to a Demon Souls kind of gameplay, I was fearful and I had my hopes down low.
Yeah.
Now, I played the game. I played it and I beat it. Not only did I beat it, I got every single achievement for the game, because that game platinumed that game, got every single trophy. The game far exceeded my expectations. And it did things in a way where I came to appreciate much so. The reason why God of War is such a great, I don't want to say reboot, because it's not technically a reboot, but they're kind of like restarting the franchise at a different time period. What I really appreciate is that they matured Kratos. They made him into a father. They made him become, a bigger person, a bigger man in that game. And the reason why I really love that game is because I am also transitioning from that little child into also a more mature person in my life.
Yeah.
And for me to play through that game, like, was such a good transition from the game developer's side. And instead of and that also reflects on the gameplay styles. When I was younger, playing the older God of War, you're just like mashing. I'm just gonna mash the best combo, whip out all these crazy swords, all these weapons. But then the game matured, and so did the gameplay. Now the gameplay is more selective. You have an axe, you have you have some magical equipment, and you need to be tactful on how you're gonna implement those different gameplays, moving around that environment. And I was very, very pleased with that game, from how they mainly handled the transition and not just copy pasted the good stuff from the old one into the new one. So I think that's hands down my generation defining game for the PlayStation 4. Now, glad that you brought up Ghost of Tsushima, because that one for me was a close second. And I'll talk about that, but I want to hear your thoughts about God of War as well.
Yeah. So the way you identified with Kratos is kind of like how I related to Atreus in a way. I saw a lot of my younger self in Atreus being like, "Oh, I can do this. I know how to do this." And then I like run headfirst at it and then I like fail immediately. But I keep trying and I learn and I grow from it. And I loved seeing that bond with Kratos and Atreus. At first, Atreus kind of hates him. He's like, why do you have to be the one to train me and everything? I like he was like, oh, I could do this myself. I wish mom was here and all that. And you see him really develop as a character and learn to like really understand where his father is coming from. And he like some spoilers for God of War as well. He like after Atreus learns that he's part god, he gets it really gets to his head, and he's like, "Oh, we can kill people. We
Yeah,
can do
we're strong.
that."
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I remember, someone in high school gave me the advice. He was like, "Don't let things get to your head," and even though he told me that, it was hard for me to like not let things get to my head, and I've learned a lot from that now. But I can like I saw myself in Atreus a lot, so that was really fun to see. But as for the gameplay in God of War, it felt very different from anything I'd played. It was over the shoulder, and it was really visceral. It was a very visceral game. You're just like chopping things and you're like slashing things with your axe. It felt really good, and yeah, it felt like a lot of fun. And I think that a lot of the combos and the skills you get from the skill tree really made the game so much fun to play, because you're testing out these different skills, you're testing out these different runic attacks you get. It was really cool. The only thing I wish I did with the game is I wish I explored a little more, because I didn't explore much in the game to begin with, and I just went full on story. So if I go back and do a new game plus, I'll explore more. And one thing I
Yeah.
want to say about God of War and about its story is, two things I want to say about God of War. One thing is about its story. The thing which I like a lot is its villain. And at first I was like, I don't like this guy. I don't like Baldur. He's
He's
very
a weird
boring.
villain.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, once you get to Helheim, also spoilers again for God of War, um, once you get to Helheim and learn that Freya gave him this gift, which he thinks more of as a curse, that he cannot be hurt or he cannot feel any pain, you kind of sympathize for him, and you're like, damn, that's kind of tragic for someone to like feel that way. I don't know. It really
He's a
humanized him
sad
a lot
character.
more. What'd you say?
He's a sad character.
Yeah.
I too, in my first playthrough, or halfway through my first playthrough, I was not liking the lack of grandeur in the game. I was used to God of War, where you get to fight literal like massive gods, you know, Poseidon, Hades, Zeus. You get to fight those like big figures, and then you get this guy Baldur. Like who's Baldur, you know?
Yeah.
And granted, you know that those big Greek gods came in later in the sequels, but even the first, like the very first God of War, you get to fight mythical creatures,
The Hydra.
like the Hydra, and you got to fight the actual God of War as well. And for me to play God of War PS4 and to play against random enemies mixed in with Baldur and Odin's sons, you know, like you know, it just didn't feel like it hit the same way. But at the same time, I'm not too sad about that, because the character development and the storytelling shines through these characters, and it's hooked me, and I want more. You know, I want to see what they're gonna do with Ragnarok. I'm excited. The next step. Where is it gonna go?
I wanna fight Odin.
Yes, me too. And
Yeah.
that's a good feeling. I don't think it's like it doesn't matter how the game was handled. If by the end of the game you want more and you want to play the next one, that means that the game did its job well.
Yeah.
No matter how they did.
Yeah, definitely. I think like God of War Ragnarok or whatever it's called is in my top 3 most anticipated games. Breath of the Wild 2 is number 1, God of War is second, Elden Ring is number 3.
Elden Ring. That's odd.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Elden Ring. The hype surrounding that game is surreal. It's
nice.
Very big. But
is it like a Skyrim
no, it's From Software's next game. It's going to be an open world kind of Dark Souls game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see how they pull that off. But the thing about God of War is it came out at a very good time, because around that time, I remember in 2018, someone from EA claimed that single player games are dead. And he was like, oh, no one wants to play single player games anymore. It's all about multiplayer. It's all about the free to play and just getting those microtransactions. And like he basically said that people don't have time for single player games, and it just won't work anymore. And then God of War came out and everyone was making videos about how that guy was wrong. And it really,
that feels good.
Yeah, it does. And the thing about I know the Game Awards really don't matter much, but for 3 years in a row, the Game of the Years that won were all very grounded single player games. Breath of the Wild 2017, God of War in 2018, and Sekiro in 2019. All grounded single player adventures. And I don't know, I've always loved that about gaming. Just sitting down by yourself, going on an adventure. That's what God of War gave me, and I was very thankful for that. Also, another thing I want to say is I played it at the best time ever, because as I was playing it, I got like a fourth of the way through the game, and then Santa Monica announced that the game was getting a 4K 60 FPS patch on the PS5, so I was like, yes! And then the game looked so much better. Yeah.
I wanna replay it again.
Yeah, you should. Anyways, Ghost of Tsushima, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about Ghost, man. What are some things that you want to say about it before I go?
Okay, I'll go first because I'm still playing the game. So I just started Act 2, and I'm liking it so far. The game looks amazing. It plays amazing. A really small thing, two small things which I really like about the game that really sell it for me are the way you switch your items in the game is so seamless.
Fluid.
Yeah, very fluid. Switching your throwing items, switching your stances, switching your arrows. You don't have to go into any menus at all. Calling your horse is seamless too, very easy. Just press left on the D-pad, it comes to you wherever you are in the world. So easy. That's one thing Breath of the Wild lacked. You have to be like in a close vicinity of your horse and then whistle for it, and then it'll come for you. And then I love the guiding wind. You put a waypoint, just swipe up on the touchpad, and it'll tell you where to go without the need for a mini map at all. Zero mini map. I love that.
I think that's like the best part about the game, and I the way they reimagined traversal in this game made it so much better for me in comparison to many like third person games.
Mm-hmm.
How many games when you like set a waypoint, there's like these big arrows dotted on the mini map, and on the actual environment you're like distracted by those lines guiding you to your location. The way this game is structured, with its culture that's backing it up, and the story that they're trying to say, the mechanics make sense.
Yeah.
It's all about It's all about seamlessness. It's all about being beautiful and simple, and for you to just like swipe up and you feel like the wind gust behind you, guiding you wherever. It's beautifully made. The game is beautifully made.
Yeah. I really like the story too. I didn't expect much of the story, but it's really surprising me how I haven't got too far into it yet. I just rescued my uncle from Castle Kaneda, but I'm really liking
Castle
how
Canada.
Castle, yeah, that's what I think about whenever I go there. I'm like, yeah, I'm back home. But whenever like I love how Jin Sakai is tackling his placement, like his role as a samurai, his honor versus his desire to just go against the norm and be who he wants to be, and like embrace the like more visceral and more just kind of like not really samurai-esque values that Yuna is kind of imparting to him, if that makes sense. So I like Jin Sakai as a character. um I like all the characters. I like some of the minor characters as well. I really like Sensei Ishikawa and Lady Masako Adachi. I like Yuna. I like
I actually have a gripe with the characters. I
Really?
don't necessarily love them, but I don't hate them either.
Yeah.
I think the characters can be a little stoic. I felt the weakness for this game was the performances from the voice actors. Other than Jin, I feel like Jin gave a great performance, and the main villain, Genghis Khan's grandson,
Khotun Khan or something.
Khotun Khan, yeah. But everybody else seemed a little stoic for me. I think the real voice actors that shine in this game are the freaking peasants and the people you want to save.
I want to say something real quick. You know, one of my favorite lines from the game is when you're going to like a shopkeeper and you don't have the right materials. They're so apologetic. They're like, "I'm sorry, you do not have the proper materials for me to craft this item." And you're like, "Damn, bro, it's okay. It's okay. I'm sorry
I'm so
too."
sorry.
Yeah, they're so apologetic. I love it.
Nah, the game does it for me in every aspect. It brought me back like pre DLC era vibes. Like we talked before. I feel like they packed everything and anything they could in this game to make it awesome. With little details like the cinematic mode, Kurosawa mode,
Yeah.
and having the multiplayer for free, like we talked about. There's just so much good gaming content in there that's not just filler, and I enjoyed every bit of it. It was fun.
All right. So, last question for me.
Yes, sir.
Actually, before I go to my last question, do you have any more things you want to throw at me before I go to my last one?
I do have one last thing before we can cap it off.
Sure.
What are some of the generational defining games for you for every like generation of console? I mainly have PlayStation generational defining games, and I just want to hear from your side when it comes to like Nintendo and
Okay.
other consoles as well.
Well, of course, like in the let me start with SNES because I'm not too familiar with NES stuff. So SNES, I would say games like Super Mario World, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI. Those were very generation defining games. Chrono Trigger was a time traveling JRPG with an amazing story on the Super Nintendo, and I still have yet to play the game. I'm kicking myself for not playing it. And
Nintendo does a lot of time travel stuff, I realized.
yeah, this was on a Nintendo console, but it was developed by Square Enix. but still, like
Interesting.
Nintendo still loves time travel. They really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta play Chrono Trigger. Unfortunately, something big about Chrono Trigger was spoiled for me, but whatever. I'll still gasp when it happens. Generation defining in the late 90s, so 3D games, easily Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64, Final Fantasy 7. Those games, easily. Mario 64, like, everyone talks about how they're just blown away by Mario being in 3D for the first time. They would just run around Peach's castle in the opening of the game and just be like, this is unreal. Like, Mario could talk, Mario could run around in a 3D space. Same with Link in Ocarina of Time. You could run around in a 3D space for the first time ever, and it just felt amazing.
It was groundbreaking. It was like revelationary.
Yeah, revolutionary.
Revelation and revolutionary combined.
Yes.
Revelationary.
I love it. Yes. But like Ocarina of Time was out, just blew everything out of the water. Still to this day, highest rated game on Metacritic. And then Final Fantasy VII brought storytelling to a whole new level. Sure, it was the similar kind of Final Fantasy gameplay, but it added materia to the system. That was really cool. Let's see. Next up is, okay, PlayStation 2 era, I'm not super familiar with, but when it comes to GameCube stuff, you got Metroid Prime, which was another game that brought one of Nintendo's big franchises into 3D. And that turned Metroid into a 2D platformer shooter into a first-person shooter, and wow, it changed everything. And I'm just now getting more into the Metroid franchise, so I gotta be more educated to talk about that. But then let's see, in the Wii and Xbox 360, PS3 era, probably The Last of Us. The Last of Us, GTA 4, GTA 5.
GTA 4 was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I played. Yeah, what are you saying?
I have a friend who praises it to the moon, and he says like he showed me a lot of things in it that GTA 5 excluded in terms of like game physics and mechanics.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll share that with you when I see it again.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then what good stuff was on the Wii? Mario Galaxy, amazing.
Wii Sports Resort, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, Wii Sports is still one of the highest selling games of all time.
It's amazing.
Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort were amazing. Yeah, the Wii was good. Oh no, I gotta talk about this. Xenoblade Chronicles. That game came out on the Wii, and not many people played it, but there's a whole story about that game getting localized and how it almost didn't come to the West, and it finally did. But I didn't play it on the Wii. I played it on the Switch with the definitive edition. But I easily think that's one of the best games Nintendo has ever made. I think the music in that game is over the top amazing. The gameplay is unique. I've never seen a game use that kind of gameplay system ever. The story is heartfelt and amazing. The performances are a little weird though. It's a little over the top. Yeah. But it's still fun. It's a great game. And then let's see. I'm gonna skip the Wii U because
of course, Batman Arkham City Armored Edition.
Yeah, that's
Batman
Arkham City Armored Edition. And then PS4, definitely God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Persona 5. And then Switch, easily Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey. What else? Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out. I think that's going to be amazing. I'm definitely missing so many games on this list of generation.
It's what comes first to your mind. You're doing all right.
Yeah. There are other games which I really enjoy as well, but I wouldn't call them generation-defining games as well.
For me, like how I define like what is the best game in that generation, it's usually the first game that comes to my mind where like I have very good memories playing that game. Because you can sit down and break out a game of like, oh, it did gameplay this well, story that well, blah, blah, blah. And then on paper, that game could sound like one of the better games of that generation. But you could easily find some game that is so simple, but yet you get so much joy out of it.
Yeah.
Like lately on the PlayStation 5, I have all of these beautiful looking games, beautiful remastered games. And what is the one game I'm having the most fun with? It's Enter the Gungeon. Yeah. It's a 16-bit game, top down, you know, I don't know what you call it, platform shooter.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a platform. I would call it more of, yeah, it's definitely a shooter. It's a roguelike shooter. That's right.
It's a bullet hell game. I think that's the right term.
It is, yeah, it actually is a bullet hell game. You're right.
Bullet hell game, and out of all those games, that's the one game that's giving me the best memories right now playing it. Going backwards in time for the PlayStation 4, I feel like the generation-defining game for me on that console has to be Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 was, like you said, it's all about Nate. It's all about his, you know, his story and how it ends. And I got so attached to that game. I have the best memories playing it on the PS4. Just for the fact of like, you know, world building. I also have a very fond memory of Infamous Second Son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the very first game I got on the PlayStation 4. Like, I don't know how long, 7 years ago or something.
Yeah. And
I remember popping it in after booting up my PlayStation 4 and using the touchpad for the first time. Going back to the PlayStation 3, I think it has some of the best generation-defining games in terms of just PlayStation. It doesn't have as many exclusives as the 4, but I think they're more quality than in my personal opinion. They gave me more joy. But for the 3, I would have to say Arkham City, hands down.
Arkham City is one of my favorite games of all time.
Hands, like, people may say, you know, overhyped, overrated, or whatever like haters gonna say. It is easily hands down what defines the PlayStation 3 for me.
I think if you're a Batman, I always say this, I think if you're a Batman fan, you have to play those games.
You have to play City at least. Yeah. Just City. If you don't have enough time, you have to play City. I played this game more than enough. Like I beat the game, I think 6 times or something. Like it's crazy.
It has some amazing moments in the game, like the very end, and then the whole Ra's al Ghul battle, the whole spoilers again, the whole Ra's al Ghul death. You know what I love about the game is it really sets the tone with Hugo Strange always saying Protocol 10 will commence in 10 hours.
That was like recurring throughout the game, and you're like, what is Protocol 10? What's gonna happen?
It counts down. Yeah,
it's so good. Yeah, they did that very well. And yeah, the Ra's al Ghul layer underneath Arkham City, you get to explore the future Arkham, the future Gotham underneath the failed project of Ra's al Ghul's vision of the Arkham.
I also love the Mr. Freeze boss fight because you can't use the same way to attack him twice. You have to use different methods of attacking him to defeat him. It was so cool.
It's praised as one of the best boss battles of all time.
Yeah.
but yeah, the Arkham City has to be that. And an honorable mention for my PlayStation 3 defining game is Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
Now, this is like your typical shooter, but so many great memories were made online, playing with friends, zombies, multiplayer. And it was like the first online experience I got, and it was for free, and it was just a joy. Now, for the PlayStation 2, it has some of my favorite generation-defining games, and they may be out there. People may not agree with me, but this game is called Stuntman Ignition. It's a single-player game where you get to play as vehicle stuntmen for knockoff parody movies that exist in the real world. You get to make your first big break in a commercial, in a taxi commercial, where you do like a stunt with the taxi, and then you go on to do stunts for like a James Bond movie, like a Batman movie, a Dukes of Hazzard movie, and you get to do all of them, but like under the parody names, of course, in different vehicles. And the reason why this may be one of my top 3 games of all time, personally, is because I am an aspiring movie maker / director, and for me to like play a game that does that, where you like have a director, telling you, cut, I don't like that stunt, redo the whole thing, or like, perfect, you nailed it, or something, and
you have kind of free reins about what you want to do.
Yeah, because the game is addressing that, that volcano exploding or the building crumbling. All of that is special effects on sets from the director, and you're playing in a fake scenario in a simulator, in a game. So that was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
An honorable mention has to be Tony Hawk's Underground 2.
Mm-hmm.
That game was so fun for me. The way they pushed the boundaries on how you could interact with the environment. I remember you could do a kickflip over a burning barrel, light your skateboard on fire, and then do a grind on the cannons, like the next to the statue, and those cannons would fire at a building under construction, sending it crumbling down, creating a new skate area for you to go in and explore.
Nice.
It was just like things like that made the game enjoyable.
And I've heard those games have really good soundtracks as well.
Yes. PlayStation 2 games, I feel, have my favorite soundtracks. Tony Hawk's, Burnout, even WWE SmackDown versus Raw. Those games were great soundtracks, man. It made the games enjoyable.
Yeah.
And for PlayStation 1, it's the OG, man, Crash Bandicoot. You can't go wrong with that. I'm replaying the whole trilogy remastered on the 5 from the PlayStation.
I downloaded that game too, the Insane Trilogy. I'll play it eventually.
Yeah, it's beautiful how they remastered it, honestly.
Yeah. So my last question, and let's make this one a quick one, is what are the games you are most excited for, specifically on the PS5 or /PS4?
I am super excited for Rocksteady's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Yes, yeah. That looks so cool. That trailer was amazing.
I love Rocksteady for every single Batman game they put out. Even though Arkham Knight is my least favorite, it still ranks above the majority of games that I played. And for them to be making a new DC Universe game, I'm on the edge of my seat. And the Suicide Squad is an interesting group of people to play as, but what's more interesting is including the Justice League in the game. And how are they gonna handle that? How are you gonna do boss battles in a co-op game made by Rocksteady? Because Rocksteady, they make the game very immersive. and they did it very well as single player, you know, playing as Batman or whatever. I'm just so curious, how are they gonna make it as immersive, as in-depth gameplay wise, while incorporating co-op and going up against big figure characters like Superman or Green Lantern or whoever.
Yeah. What I find interesting is both of their two of the games that are coming out, one by WB Montreal and one by Rocksteady. They're both kind of like co-op games with different characters you can play as, like Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad. So I'm very intrigued to see how both of them pull it off. And I think Suicide Squad has a very, very nice arsenal of characters that it's pulled from, and I really hope they pull it off well. And if they do, these boss fights are going to be amazing. Yeah, amazing. Like imagine fighting Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman. Just oh man,
I'm just curious, how are they gonna do it? Like how on earth is Harley Quinn gonna defeat Superman? You know, that's my biggest like concern. Like I could see if they had Deathstroke in the mix. I know like Deathstroke in the comics almost single-handedly defeated the Justice League.
Think about Captain Boomerang fighting the Justice League.
That's so funny. That's so funny. But I'm excited. But I just gotta tell you one thing. The Arkham Knights game, it's not gonna be as good as the Suicide Squad game. Like you could already tell. Yeah. It's gonna be a rinse and repeat, level up your character kind of deal. It's not gonna be as well crafted, I think, as the Rocksteady game.
Yeah. I find it interesting that each of those characters have a different play style, but I have to see more about the game to make a informed decision on it.
Like it doesn't have the same stealth aspect as like the Arkham games, where you get to like perch on different gargoyles or vents and sneak around. Yeah. I don't think they're capturing that very well. I think it's just like, it's almost as if it's like a beat 'em up. That's what Arkham Knight looks for me. Arkham Knights, rather.
Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights, rather. My bad. But yeah, other than Suicide Squad, of course, we talked about Thor Ragnarok. That's on my list.
God of War Ragnarok.
God of War Ragnarok, because the movie is gonna be named Thor Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Mixed both up. But yeah, God of War Ragnarok is something I'm anticipating as well, next to Suicide Squad.
I would honestly like to see a Thor Ragnarok movie though. I mean, a Thor Ragnarok video game though. That would be pretty cool.
Maybe Thor is gonna be in Ragnarok.
Oh, Thor is definitely gonna be in Ragnarok because I don't know if you saw the post-credits scene of God of War
with the hammer.
The dream that Atreus had. That's definitely gonna happen. He's like, you so killed my sons. And he's gonna, I think the first boss of the game is gonna be Thor.
Holy crap. Yeah. That's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. But for me, my most anticipated are Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, number 1. We're probably gonna see it at E3, and I'm so excited to see it because it's been 2 years since it was announced. God of War, of course. We talked a lot about that. Elden Ring. I'm very excited to see what Elden Ring does, because how do you bring a more compact game like Dark Souls and Bloodborne? How do you put that into the open world? I have no idea what they're gonna do, but I just want it to be as big as the hype train is, because the hype train is huge. Everyone is like wanting it to be that good, and
and your list coincides with the actual list that's posted.
Oh yeah,
you said, the 3 most anticipated games for majority gamers, and then your list kind of coincides with that.
I don't know exactly what it is for the majority of gamers, but I'm pretty sure it's similar. I remember in the Game Awards this past year, I know Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 and Elden Ring were nominated for most anticipated game, I think along with Starfield and some other ones. But Elden Ring actually won that award, and I was like, no, it should have gone to Breath of the Wild.
But hey, you're gonna buy Breath of the Wild anyways. It doesn't matter who won the award.
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna pre-order that if pre-orders go up after E3. I'm gonna pre-order that game. But
what are some other games that are like? I feel like there isn't like a huge lineup. I remember back in the day, like everything was hype. Like you had like Wolfenstein, you had like the latest COD, you had like big AAA titles from Naughty Dog, like Uncharted 4. You had like so many big titles coming out.
I think we'll know more at E3 this year, because I think E3 is gonna be a blowout for every single company being involved. Of course,
Sony's not doing their shit there, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, Sony hasn't been doing E3 for a while. They'll definitely do a state of play, so we'll see what they have cooking for us then.
Have you seen the whatchamacallem, the Hitman developers? They're making a James Bond game.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, I'm a big fan of James Bond games, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, but I know you're not a big fan of Hitman. I remember you were like, I hope they don't make it like a Hitman game.
It's so goofy. You're just like throwing like random stuff at people's heads and carrying them into rooms, and
I mean, it's interesting. We'll see how they do it. But
you're just walking. He's always like walking like walking in rooms, and then he's like, oh, a guy, wrench in your face, and then he like walks and he bends down, immediately like switches outfits, and he's like, I'm gonna pull a switch, bring down the whole building or something.
Yeah, but we'll see what else is announced at E3. But do you have any other things you want to say before we wrap it up?
I just want to say it's been a great pleasure talking with you about this. Apologies if I rambled a lot. This was my first podcast coming on as a guest.
Great.
I hope to come on future ones. I'll be more prepared, more concise. Try to give you a better answers instead of rambling on.
No, I think you did great. But I'll think of more stuff to do, and I think you'll do well as a reoccurring guest. And I think we hit some really good points today on a lot of different things relating to PlayStation and even other game studios. So yeah, it was a great experience talking about all of these things. I definitely learned a lot when it comes to like doing a podcast. Oh yeah.
And you were such a great host. I appreciate you hosting me. You had great questions.
Yeah.
The flow
you had some great ones too. Yeah. Throwing in your hat as well.
I tried my best.
Yeah. So with that, we'll bring this podcast to a close. To everyone who's watching, thank you for making it this far. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts on the podcast. What are some of your PlayStation games that you enjoy? What are some other video games that you are excited for in the near far future? Comment down below, let us know. And it's been a good podcast. Remember to subscribe to Nishquik Pops for more video game content. And this has been Nishquik and Shark, and it's been a good one. Thank you so much for joining me, Shark.
Thank you, sir.